Ahead of this coming Thursday, October 5th, I'm very excited to welcome Martin Dosh back, and for the first time on Back to the City, to be joined by Mark Erickson, aka Golden Bulls.
It's great to be here.
Thanks, Simon.
You're going to be playing at ICEHOUSE. What's significant about this particular ICEHOUSE show?
I think it's more just an excuse to have some fun, let off some steam, listen to music that like sort of gets you out of the sort of, you know, all the horrible things that are happening in our country and our world, and just kind of like have a good time and dance and, you know,
gets you out of
get
the funk
down
into the funk.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the Facebook event page, it says more than in parentheses, more than 100 days ago, Martin Dosh initiated a series of Facebook posts that strove to do nothing less than fully illustrate the history and the majesty of funk. So you began with Steppin' in It by Herbie Hancock.
Right.
But before too long, for example, by day 9, you were at Sesame Street, the pinball song.
Right.
And then eventually we would go on a detour through, for example, Weird Fishes by Radiohead.
Right.
How did you select these songs? Is it a matter of your sense of funk?
It's totally, well, yeah, I was saying earlier, it's completely subjective.
Yeah.
So A, it's music that I like, but B, music that also is in some way funky to me, like something that makes me want to move.
Yeah.
You know, or just something that like, because, I mean, I don't know. Do you have any comments on that, Mark? I don't.
What
you
is
know,
funk?
because
Golden
that's the whole thing.
Is
like,
funk music, yeah?
Right.
Yes.
So what is funk music?
Well, I mean, Golden Balls is dedicated to funk as a form, as a musical form.
Yes.
Rather than
How is it different from being a funk band or playing funk music? What does it mean to be dedicated to funk?
Well, it is being a funk band and playing funk music, but funk, for many people, funk encapsulates, there's a fashion sense, there's a cultural sense, there's historical sense of what funk is and was. Yeah. And the challenge as somebody who engages with the idea of what funk is how do you translate that to the modern day without being nostalgic, without being a nostalgia act or portraying nostalgia? How do you make new things that are in a form that people identify with something that's 40 years old?
Yeah.
And one way of doing that is filtering it through Radiohead, or filtering it through trip hop, or filtering it through any, like, thousands of examples you can think of that have been influenced by funk, but that don't necessarily come to mind when you're thinking of the word funk. But they're just as funky as, I mean, you take Johnny Greenwood's guitar part in Weird Fishes, and if you just kind of isolate it and listen to it in isolation, you come to understand that it shares a lot of the attributes of what one might think of as funk. Yeah. But it isn't funk. It's funky.
I mean, it's like, because Phil Selway gets a lot of grief.
He does.
The drummer, for being like unfunky.
Yeah.
And
Al Church, when Al Church was sitting just here, he was giving Phil Selway some grief.
It's
being unfunky.
It's very true, and like I've seen Radiohead probably 5 times or 4 or 5 times. You know, big festivals I was playing with Bird or whatever. Yeah. And they're the only band I've ever seen where the drummer had like a complete and total train wreck, like in the middle of the show, like twice.
Phil?
Like, where like you just lost the one, and Tom's like looking back at him, like yelling, like, 1, 2, like that kind of thing.
To be the show that Martin Dosh is at.
Yeah, but so I mean, I suspect that would be one of the reasons why they have the drummer from Portishead.
Yeah, exactly.
There now, because he can, But also, I think it's cool because, I mean, this isn't the funk thing, but just the fact that they stuck together as 5 guys and they didn't fire Phil. They kept him in the band. But you can hear him in Weird Fishes when he's playing it. He's like just trying as hard as he can to get that, like it's really straining him.
So you don't give Phil grief, but you do recognize those 2 issues with that show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this may sound like a cop-out, but one of the joys of funk is that there is no perfect way to do it. There's a way that feels good to some people and a way that feels good to other people. And a lot of people can agree that James Brown was great funk music. Yeah. But why is that perfect? There are no rules in place that say that when J-Bo dropped his snare just a little bit behind the beat, that was better than when Clyde put his a little bit behind the beat. But they did it slightly different. It just seemed to work.
Better than or funkier than.
Right. And so there are no rules that have been written down as to what makes funk music. And people have tried, and it doesn't work. It's definitely a thing where you have to feel it and you know it and it's there. And there's a cultural consensus that certain things are, but I think that that definition should be extended to more things in life.
Yeah, and the consensus determines what funk is.
Exactly.
But we can push that consensus, and to some extent that's part of what is happening with this list of more than 100 funk songs.
Yeah, because I realized once we found. So I went out of town a few months ago and.
The spell check.
With spell check with Mike Sapko, and so I wasn't able to be in town. I just didn't really want to think about it, so I had Mark do a bunch of posts for about 10 days.
Oh,
he wanted just doing like a bunch of Ray Parker Jr. basically.
Well, no, there's like 3 or 4 days, but I did like 10, and there's other ones as well.
So you took a break, but then at the end of it, is that why there were more? Then did you add as many as you?
Well, once we sort of, I don't even know what came up. It might have been Jeff that came up with the idea of doing a show. It's like Jeff always gets excited about it. Like,
Jeff, the third member.
Jeff Ham,
of Golden.
We should do a show of 100 Days of Funk. It'd be awesome, We'd play it, It's like, it's actually not a bad idea. So, but the earliest show I could get was October 5th, and so I had to stretch out by doing today's 99.1, 99.2, or But it should line up perfectly so that on the 100th day of funk we'll play the last song.
And you will reveal, you'll unveil the 100th song.
Yeah.
Have you always known what the 100th would be?
Absolutely not.
Do you know now?
I think so, yeah.
Does Mark know?
Maybe,
yeah. I had a number of choices, because some bands I put on there more than once, so it might be someone that's already been on the list.
Devo was on a couple of times.
Yep.
Yeah.
Devo was on a couple times. Steely Dan, a couple times. I don't know.
What's the ratio of songs of posts that are purposefully trying to get us to reconceive what funk is to some extent, to posts that are giving us?
I don't know if there's a purpose to it, because I think the only ones that ever people really commented on that were like not negative, but just like, this is totally not funk.
Yeah.
It was like Radiohead, and then I posted Sonic Youth.
Yeah.
Teenage
Riot?
Teenage Riot,
yeah.
Which is,
What's funky about Teenage Riot?
Just the way all the guitars, like, the strumming of the guitars, I think, is really what it is. Steve Shelley is not a funky drummer, but just the way that everything comes together in that tune is just so, I don't know, to me it's really powerful, and it's like, it's one of those things you just want to turn up and like drive 80 miles an hour.
It gives you that, like, the feeling.
Yeah.
That if anything defines funk, it's a certain feeling.
It's a feeling.
Yeah.
To me, anyway.
Can we describe this feeling?
It's a feeling that inspires movement. How you move is a personal choice. Okay. So for some people it might be driving fast, some people might be dancing.
Yeah.
Some people might be tapping your foot or whatever. But I think that inspires movement is key.
Yeah. Which is why I think it's sort of such an old, even before Cold Sweat came out, it's like the idea of funk was like, the idea of like early humans playing drums together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like a very, very basic, simple, but not so simple thing that goes back way before recorded music,
How interesting then that bands like Radiohead managed to keep it funky despite the drum.
People can disagree with that one, but
So it's interesting that you say the movement is important, because in the fourth and final song on G-Bulls, which is the fourth song EP, Golden Bulls, which was recorded at the Terrarium, back in July, and just came out at the beginning of August. In the final song on that EP, there's an emphasis on walking. and being together on the walk.
Right.
So thinking about that lyric now, is it a coincidence that that song is about moving?
Well, when I'm composing the lyrics for Golden Balls, I really never approach it with a concept that I want to
convey.
Yeah. Right. You just try things.
Yeah.
And once you find something that's not objectionable, you keep it.
Okay.
And that's harder than you think.
What's the standard? What's the criteria of whether it's going to be objectionable?
Similar to what is funky, you just don't know it until you hear it.
Yeah. It's interesting, the metaphor of objectionable, given that the first song is Order in the Court. And that's not, one doesn't think of a courtroom as being funky.
No. You know, to me, that just had the impression of the old school 60s and 70s, where I think people were literally just trying to find things to fill up the space, fill up the lyrical space in the song. And it never necessarily had to make sense.
Yeah.
If it did make sense, that was just an added bonus. But in the meantime, you're chanting something, and everyone in the room is chanting something that just sounds and feels right.
Can you remember the moment, like in rehearsal, or if you were if you were on your own, kind of composing this song, that you hit upon? Okay, this opening song just needs one lyric.
Right.
Order in the Court, and that's the right one.
I remember.
Mark would have been the one who did that.
I was in my house alone and coming up with ideas. And I think it was a da-da, you just wanted to hit that one note.
Yeah.
Order.
Yeah. Which is what, is the song called Order or Order in the Court?
It's just called Order for now.
Yeah.
It's all malleable. Nothing's permanent.
Whatever you feel like.
But, and I think once I actually put down Order in the Court, I laughed a lot. I just laughed at myself for about 10 minutes.
The incongruity.
And it just doesn't make any sense, but it's funny. And I think it worked.
Is it funny because of the incongruity? Because if something, the idea of anything goes to some extent, that you were saying about different ways.
Anytime the universe lines up in a certain way, it's funny.
I mean, it's something to me that there's got to be some, Parliament or Funkadelic thing about something about the court, or it's something like that Clinton or Bootsy would have, written a lyric like that, or
or you think
the Court of Funk or whatever.
Prince Buster, Prince Buster.
No.
Kind of a reggae dancehall guy at early age from Jamaica, and he had this long Judge Dredd series where he proclaimed he was Judge Dredd, and he would cast down his enemies, and at the end he'd let them all free because he's the judge, and he rules this court, and everyone dances.
Yeah.
Was that in your mind, do you think, or are you?
No, I just thought of that. Maybe it's deep back in there. And the person who introduced that to me was Jeff Hammond. Many years ago. So it all comes around.
So speaking of George Clinton, a friend of yours, Martin, many of your friends actually have been contributing to this. Now that you started the ball rolling, I saw many friends of yours posting to your wall with extra contributions.
Right.
And one of these, Jeff, posted a drum video just the other day. Which drummer was that?
Which
This is Jeff Severs Gunzel.
Oh, Jeff. The sort of gospel chops guy.
Yeah.
The big black dude.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And
I can't remember his name, like Tayshawn or something. I can't remember the drummer's name. And
he described it as atomic funk, but not like George Clinton, not the George Clinton kind.
Right.
Speaking of George Clinton, but atomic, the dictionary definition of or forming a single irreducible unit or component in a larger system. So, what do you think Jeff was getting at with that?
I'm not totally sure. I mean, it sounds, because he's a writer, So.
Oh yeah, I could tell. Yeah. It was a well-written.
But it's like the video is basically like this dude. I can't remember his name, but anyway, he's the drummer for VJ Iyer, who's like a jazz piano player.
Yeah.
So the video is just a shot of him as he's tracking this song.
Yeah.
And so you hear the piano and the bass and stuff, but you don't see it. He's just him in the video.
So in the studio, so it's not intended to be.
It's like it's basically like sort of a. 'Cause he's endorsed by some cymbal company, and so it's not an ad, but like they're filming him using these cymbals. And then afterwards he talks about the cymbals and how great they are, but it's an actual live track of him playing along with this, really cool kind of jazz funk kind of stuff.
Nice. Yeah.
But as far as like Jeff's waxing there, I can't. I don't know. I'd have to hear it again. Can you read it again?
Yes, of course. Yeah. So he was saying it's atomic, not the George Clinton kind of atomic funk, but atomic, the dictionary definition, being of or forming a single irreducible unit or component in a larger system. That sounds
like what funk is to me.
Yeah, and that's what funk is. That's not just the description of what was happening with that drummer.
No, I mean he was pretty over the top in that video, but I mean it's funk as far as like interlocking pieces that make up a whole, you know.
The idea of being a part of something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And again, like on the human level and the feeling.
Yeah.
Maybe something bigger than oneself.
Absolutely.
And you began by saying you're kind of, well, I used the metaphor of breaking one out of a funk, but maybe this reminder of something, and the genre of funk music can be something.
Yeah, I mean it's moving parts that work together. I mean it's the simplicity of certain things, and you know, not trying to be too complicated. I mean some funk is complicated, but just trying to.
Is that funk? Are we witnessing?
Kinda. But I mean I think about like the meters and the way that the meters sort of. It's all like all these individual parts that are not particularly like revolutionary or different. Like if you isolate all the meter tracks, but then when you put them together, it's like this puzzle,
right. And
somehow that puzzle becomes funk. You know? I don't know.
Is play important for funk? Like the idea of, you know, because we've got the metaphor of a puzzle, and a puzzle is play.
Right.
Yeah.
Is play?
Well, it's like what Mark was saying about the lyrics. It's like you know, you don't, if you're trying to write a tune, you have to play it and practice it and try different ideas out, but you never really know how it's going to work out until you find it.
Right.
You know, just got to try different things. So it is like play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like play, but then on the other hand, all we have is our work, which is a lyric in all that we have is our work.
Exactly. That's the name of the song.
And that's interesting. I feel like I feel like there is a significance to that set of lyrics and that idea. What is that song exploring?
Not trying to control your circumstances, but allowing yourself to understand that you are able to control what you're able to control, and you can't control what you can't control.
Okay, so interesting.
And there's a certain level of frustration I find living in the modern world, where you wish that you could tell people outside of your purview what to do and how to act and how to be.
Yeah.
You can't. All you can control is what's in front of you.
Yeah.
And what you have. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you could apply that very easily to our political conditions or our social conditions. Mm-hmm. I wish that the mayor of Minneapolis acted in a certain way, or I wish that my barber did a certain thing. Mm-hmm. She doesn't.
But I don't hate your barber.
All that we have is what is our work. That's all that we can control.
Okay.
I suppose in this.
So our work is not like our job, or is it our job? Like
well,
what is our work?
It's everything that we do.